Hello everybody, RMJ Movie Reviews back again, and now I'm coming with my next crime movie review of a very little seen gem from Al Pacino's catalog. Probably a movie that none of you have probably really heard of except for hardcore movie fans. A film called Cruising, directed by French Connection, To Live and Die in L.A., and The Exorcist director William Friedkin. Cruising. I actually saw this film on Encore back in, I think, about 2000 and maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. And it was like during like an Al Pacino month where they were showing like some of his well-known movies like The Godfather, and then they showed this. I never heard of this film before, and I never even heard Pacino talk about it. The film came out in 1980, so it came out a year before I was born. And boy, when I saw the film, I understand why I've never heard of it. Basically, cruising is a term that I think was used around that time in New York City for, like, basically homosexual men basically hooking up with each other just randomly for random sexual encounters. And basically, Cruising tells the story of Al Pacino. He's a cop who's going undercover into the gay leather scene in early 80s New York to catch this killer who's basically just killing these men in these S&M bars and dismembering them, and body parts are floating in the river in New York City. It's pretty down and dirty. This film is, I don't know. There's many things that I think are very well done about the film, and then there's many things that I think aren't well done about the film. I really appreciate the down and dirty. I mean, this is a pretty seedy movie. I mean, basically, if Brokeback Mountain was a horror film, that would be Cruising, because everything is presented just very unpleasantly. You know, even, you know, some people might not be able to watch this film because of the S&M gay leather scenes or whatever. And Al Pacino was like frequenting these bars trying to identify this killer. Al Pacino fits the profile of the men who've been murdered, so that's why Paul Sorvino is the captain who chooses him to take on this assignment. And those scenes are presented in very graphic, uncomfortable detail. It's just very sweaty and nasty looking. The murders in the movie are extremely graphic. The killer uses the form of a knife. And one of the cool things that I do like about the film is I do like the unpleasant, dreadful tone that it has. And I like the graphicness of the murders. I'm not really the most crazy about the S&M stuff. I could do without that, but I think it fits the tone of what the movie is going for. And I also like kind of the way the killer is presented. There's, you know, he's kind of this anonymous kind of figure in the movie, and also he's played by a different actor each time they show him. He's kind of got this leather get up with these big reflective Tom Selleck looking sunglasses it's actually a very creepy movie. I think where the movie falters is the tone is very good. It's dreadful, it's unpleasant, it presents all the graphic violence, all the sex stuff. But I think where Cruising falls short is with the characters and basically how the mystery ties up. I mean, it's not, the characters aren't very well rounded. You don't get to know them very well. There's just kind of clues that are just red herrings that are kind of thrown out there. They don't really lead anywhere. Al Pacino has this relationship with Karen Allen that she's just so from what I understand, this is a longer version of this movie, so stuff really feels choppy and truncated. She doesn't really get much to do but get banged and say, "I don't really know you," but we don't really get to know Al Pacino either, so it's just kind of like nobody knows anybody, you know. And it just, the mystery kind of really doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of runs around in circles. And then by the time the movie kind of ends really early, it feels anticlimactic. And you really never really find out who the killer is, you know. So ultimately cruising ends in an unsatisfying way. So you kind of go on this journey, you're kind of left with nothing. You know, you don't really get spectacular performances. It's a trip because it's, like I said, it's down and dirty. This is filmmaking. They wouldn't even have the balls to even make a movie like this now. So I give them credit just for how salacious it is and unpleasant it is. But the only problem is that after you take this filthy, dirty trip, you're left with nothing. So, I would recommend cruising to William Friedkin fans who people who want to check out Al Pacino's older catalog. For the sensitive viewer, I definitely wouldn't recommend it, because if you don't want to hear about golden showers and guys getting fisted, which you do see a fisting in the movie, but it's you know, it's done in a choppy way, you can't really tell. But it's a trip. I don't know. It's not for the faint of viewers. It's only for hardcore film fanatics who can separate themselves from what is going on in the film. So I recommend it for them. But it is some trippy stuff in this. Ed O'Neill actually pops up in this too. And actually, the guy who played the father on Boy Meets World, he pops up in the movie. Like I said, Paul Sorvino. The bad guy from 48 Hours, James Remy Remar, he pops up here as a homosexual. It's there's a lot of actors who pop up in this thing. So, you know, it's up to you guys if you want to give it a try. I don't think the mystery goes anywhere, but again, it's up to you as a viewer. I'm only recommending it to hardcore film fanatics. If anything, rent the film, listen to the commentary and the behind the scenes, because I kind of feel the behind the scenes story is more interesting than what the movie actually turned out to be. So A+ for tone, for dread, for the balls to even make a movie like this, and the way the killer is presented. But I think in the end, that's really just about it, man. It's just a dirty little trip that just doesn't go anywhere. So, you know, I'm on the fence about cruising. Hardcore Pacino fans, check it out. So,